Like the pine trees lining the winding road, I've got a name, I've got a name.
So, how about all that wonderful music today? You know, I will not ask you to sing, but wouldn't you know that for the first time in 108 years, the Cubs win the World Series? Are there any Cubs fans here? And I have, for the first time in my life possibly, written a sermon with no sports illustrations. Actually, today I would like to talk to you about music. When I was in seminary, one of my professors said that when he turned 70, on his 70th birthday, he was taking 75% of his music collection and throwing it away. And for the rest of his life, he was only listening to music that was recorded in the 60s, because that's when the best music was ever recorded. To which I said, I grew up listening to a lot of classic rock. I said, well, you need to include some of the early 70s. There was some really good music in the early 70s. I mean, there was some really cool stuff going on in the world in the early 70s. I think it was like the best time for cars and music. And so today I would like to share with you one of the songs from the early 70s that I really like. My father got me listening to Jim Croce at an early age. And the song that we would listen to together was Bad, Bad Leroy Brown. But there's this other song that we'd hear. It's called I've Got a Name. Has anybody ever heard that song before? And I was listening to it, and I've got one of these radio stations on my car that's all classic rock. And it came on a few days ago. I was actually driving out to Briarwood. And the song came on, and I was listening to it. I'm like, man, this is such a great song. And I started listening to it, and I'm like, this isn't so much as a song as it's a sermon. This song is just written so well that it'll preach. And so I thought maybe one day I'll write a sermon about it. And then it actually happened where I wrote a sermon about the song. The song is literally, it's 3 verses. And in the first verse, he says, I've got a name. In the second verse, he says, I've got a song. And in the third verse, he says, I've got a dream. And I thought, well, you know, as we celebrate All Saints Sunday, the day that we look at the past of our church and all the saints who have gone before us, and we look at all the saints around us, I think it's a good day to look at those 3 things. First is, I've got a name. We've all got a name. When I lied. I guess I do have a football illustration here. I'm sorry. It happens so naturally. In high school, there was always a saying on your football jersey that the name on front was more important than the name on the back. And so, you know, it was kind of this thing that the team first. But I always thought, you know, the name on the back's pretty important to me. My last name is really important to me. It's much more important to me than my first name. Although I am Nicholas Michael Billardello III. And so I am named after my father, who was named after his father. But the name Billardello itself, my last name, is really important to me because it represents a very large group of people. It represents a large group of people, most of whom have passed away, but who traveled across the sea from Italy to come to America to have a better life for their descendants, including my family, my parents, and myself. And now it's a better life that I'm passing along to my daughter as I give her my name when she was born. And so I always grew up with this understanding that my last name, like if I ever got in trouble, I was to give them my first name because my last name represents so much more. And so, and I know that a lot of you, I've talked to a lot of you about how you're getting interested in Ancestry.com and all these things and learning about where you've come from and doing these DNA tests and trying to learn about who you are and understanding the importance of understanding who you are and what it means to be part of a family and what some of those members of your family have done to make your life what it is today. But I also, there is a first name that we all have that is also very important. And I'm not talking about the first name on your birth certificate. I'm talking about the name given to you the day that you were baptized. And that's the name that goes before your first name. And that's the name Saint. On All Saints' Day, you need to hear that the day you were baptized, your name changed in God's books. And the very first name that God sees is Saint. You are a saint who belongs to this large Christian family. You represent God's family. One of our members, Joan Wilt, usually sits right here in the front row, second row, sorry. She broke her hip a few weeks ago, and she is now in rehab and doing very well. I went and visited her on Friday, right before lunch, and I walked in, and Joan just turned 89 years old, and she was doing some of her therapy, and her therapist, she was sitting, and her therapist was across from her, and I kind of knocked on the door and walked in, and the therapist, she looked at me and smiled, and the therapist said, "Oh, is this one of your family members?" And Joan said, "Yes, that's my pastor." And it was one of those moments where it's like, I can't believe she just said, I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm tearing up. But it brought to me the reality that we are a family. That yes, we are each other's family. The members of this church, the people on your left and on your right, people sitting on the sections to your left and to your right, are the members of your family. Sometimes it's difficult to see them that way, but they are. But it's bigger than that. Everybody who's at a church today that professes Jesus Christ as Lord all around the world is a member of your family. And even those who aren't at church but still profess that Jesus Christ is Lord is a member of your family. Now, our family is a very large one, and we've got crazy relatives, right? People who say things that we wouldn't agree with. But the reality is that all of us who profess Jesus Christ as Lord, who have been baptized into the faith, have all been given the same name, Saint. And that makes them part of our family. But what's interesting and what's even more beautiful than that is everyone who has come before us, who has been baptized and who has claimed their eternal reward is part of our family as well. All the martyrs, all the Christians for 2,000 years who have gone before us, who have passed down the faith to us, is a part of our family, and everyone who will come behind us is a part of our family. We've got a name, and that name is Saint, and that name is important, and we need to remember that. In the second verse, he says, I've got a song. I've got a song to sing, purpose and life, something to do. I've got something to do. And I think Paul's today letter in Ephesians, Paul, I think, gets right at the heart of Christianity, the foundation of why it is that we're here, what we're called to do. 2 words. I have heard that you have faith in Jesus Christ and that you have loved. Believe and love. The foundation of a Christian life. Believe and love. And by doing those 2 things, we pass down the faith to the next generation, to the people who come behind us. Yesterday at our men's breakfast, we talked about the people in our lives who made faith a priority to us, who believed in God and who loved us enough to pass down that faith to us. On Wednesday night, we had confirmation, and we studied the Beatitudes. We were studying the teachings of Jesus. And I asked the kids to read a Beatitude, what the gospel lesson today, blessed are so-and-so. And I said, I want you to read these texts and tell me, how is it that anybody can say, blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted? How does that play out today in our lives? And I want to share 2 of those Beatitudes with you. This is coming from our children, the children of this congregation. This is how they understand God working in their lives and in the world. I want to share these 2 with you. For blessed are those who mourn, our children wrote. We are blessed because God comforts us through other people. That's pretty profound, isn't it? That our children actually see us doing that. That our children actually see that God is working when we are comforting others. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. And I love this one. I love the other one, but this one's great. They are blessed if they have faith and a family. I mean, literally, these kids are writing my sermon for me and they don't even know it. How lucky am I if they have faith and if they have a family? Otherwise, they are blessed if they have a faith and love. That is our song to sing. That is what we do as church. We are a family. And a family is at its best when it's helping each other, when it's comforting each other. There's one line in Jim Croce's song that just gets me every time. It just gets me every time. He sings at the end of this verse, and if it gets me nowhere, does anybody know how it ends? I'll go there proud. If it gets me nowhere, I'll go there proud. If this life of faith gets me nowhere, I'll go there proud. I'll go there proud. When I walked away from my corporate job, some of the people I worked with thought I was crazy because of what I was giving up. And some thought I was crazy because they didn't believe in God and they thought I was wasting my life. And I came to the conclusion that, you know what? If living this life gets me nowhere, I will go there proud because the way that we are living is a better way to live. We get to help others. We get to listen to others when they just need to vent. We get to comfort others who are grieving, who are frustrated, who don't know what to do next. We get to make other people's lives better because they are our family members and we get to share our love with them. And if it gets us nowhere, I'll go there proud. And you know what? I think if we think about the saints in our lives, the people who meant the most to us, the people who we miss the most, when they passed away, when they went on to the next life, I bet they went there proud because they knew that you knew that they loved you. And that's all that mattered to them in those final moments, was that as long as you know that from the moment you were born, you were loved, then I have lived a successful life. But the reality is, we aren't on a journey to nowhere. If we were on a journey to nowhere, I'd still be proud. But we are not on a journey to nowhere. We've got a journey to somewhere great. The last verse is, I've got a dream. I've got a dream. Well, I don't think we necessarily use the word dream. We use the word hope. I've got a hope. I've got a hope that when this life ends, our journey continues in a better place, a place free from the suffering and frustrations of this life, a place where our loved ones are together and will never be lost again, a place where all the wrongs are made right, and a place where you will be welcomed just as you are. You will be welcome because you believed and God loved. There's one last beatitude that our kids wrote that I want to share with you. Blessed are the poor in spirit because theirs is the kingdom of God. Our kids wrote, even people who do the wrong things will still be blessed with heaven because God forgives them. I couldn't have said it better than myself. Amen.